Good evening, YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning into another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon, a retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years of law enforcement. And if you like all things true crime related from a police perspective, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live and when I upload another video. I want to say a special thank you to my moderators, my Patreon supporters, and the channel members, the new and old subscribers who continually come back to all of these live streams. I greatly, greatly appreciate each and every one of you. And tonight I have two special guests. As you can see, we started the show, as I usually don't do, started the show with these two very fine guests. I have Barbara Butcher, who is a retired chief of staff in the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. And I have retired Detective Sergeant Bill Cannon, homicide investigator, 27 plus years in Manhattan North Homicide. Barbara, Bill, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Ron. Good to see you.
Tonight, we're going to discuss the Summer Wells case. There is so much swirling misinformation, as you and I spoke, Barbara, the other day. Barbara was kind enough to take my call early in the day, around 10 o'clock in the morning, and she is actually on like a little mini sabbatical. She's enjoying herself and getting some R&R. But Barbara was kind enough. This is the kind of relationship that us law enforcement professionals have. She said, Ron, let's do it. So I appreciate that, Barbara.
Sure.
Bill, if you can give our audience a little background on Barbara Butcher's career, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. Barbara Butcher was the chief of staff of the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for just under 24 years. In that role, she responded to over 680 homicide scenes. She also responded to the tsunami in Southeast Asia, where over 500,000 people were killed. And so she's no stranger to death. Currently, she's writing a book about her career. I would consider her one of the best investigators of all the people that I worked with on the periphery of the NYPD. And she was not just a great investigator, but she was a very pleasant person to work with.
Wow. Listen, every time I hear you say that, and I'm not even kidding, every time I hear Bill, you do her intro, because she's been on Police Off the Cuff many times, she's been on my show many a times, I just say to myself, whew, you know, it's an esteemed career. It's very, very noble what you've done and what you continue to do in your retired life. So, Barbara, thank you so much for being in here. I have to get right into it, and I'm chomping at the bit because we have so much swirling misinformation on this poor little girl, Summer Wells, missing since June 15th. We're talking 24 or 27 days. Oh yeah, 24 days. So reported missing by her parents. It is now investigated by the FBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. It's deemed a suspicious case. That was just yesterday they deemed it. Bill, you and I did a live stream the other day, and we talked about misinformation, photographs being shared, people's thoughts and hunches and things of that nature. Do you want to talk a little bit to the audience? You're a retired homicide detective sergeant, but you worked on so many missing persons cases as well. How dangerous is that when you're taking investigators and sending them down rabbit holes that they don't need to go? Just talk a little bit about that.
Well, Ron, one of the things is that the police know the truth. The police know which direction they're going to, and that's the correct direction. All these people that as you call it, fake book, are creating these different scenarios. And one of the most egregious things I find is when people on Facebook interview the main players in this case. That is definitely not helping the case. It's not helping the police. And it's just contributing to more and more rumors. If you're thinking, if they're interviewing a person that possibly killed this little girl, you think that person is going to just tell them self-serving information? Also, everything they tell them, the police now have to go check it out just because some amateur investigators got a statement out of a main player in this case.
Right. And I also want to highlight too, no lead is not a good lead. So Again, if you have credible information and it's coming from a legit source, in other words, somebody said, hey, listen, Bill, I saw this girl an hour before this happened and she was at so-and-so location. That's a good tip. But if you're saying somebody from the United Kingdom or somebody from Asia or somebody from another part of the country heard from another friend that told another friend, this is what happened, that's information that's bogging down the investigation. I mean, I hope we can agree on that. Like I said, they're asking for good, valid leads. And the sheriff, Lawson, and the TBI, and also the Captain Tim Coop, they all asked for the help of the public. We ask for the help of the public all the time. Barbara, you know that. And Bill, you know how important we solve a lot of cases with the help of you guys. So,
Ron, if I could just interject here for a second. Sure. Yes, you have to use the press, but you have, as I just said, you have to use them. Don't have the press use you. All right. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty happy with how the police are withholding information in this case, because that's to their advantage. A lot of information they have, if they throw it out there, it could compromise the case. So they're keeping pretty tight-lipped. And I'll tell you the truth, I wish we could have kept this tight-lipped on a lot of big investigations in the NYPD, but the NYPD's policy was basically, give the press everything, which didn't help our efforts.
Right. And it's like an open book, and sometimes that could be our worst enemy, as you said. The press sometimes can be our best friend, and then sometimes it could be our worst enemy. Like you said, on some of these high-profile cases, they blurb out information that you're using to try to have leverage in a case. And now all of a sudden it's out there in the Twitter sphere and fake book land, and it takes so many different twists and turns. I want to just show quickly, and Barbara, this is the meat and potatoes of why we're live. And I want the audience, and there's almost 500 folks here watching now, over 500. I want everybody to know the content of this show is to talk about misinformation. And one of the biggest things of misinformation that I personally have received on DutyRon.com, and everybody, if you're not yet subscribe to the channel, and also go check out my website. Most of the folks who are sending in tips into DutyRon.com, I'm redirecting them to the TBI. I'm redirecting them to the FBI. But I've got so much email and inquiries about a particular photograph of Summer Wells. It's a photograph that most of you are going to know about, and that's the whole focus of this live stream. She's in the backseat of her mom's car with a seatbelt on, propped up against 2 1-gallon containers of milk. And it's been said, and this is just a rumor, that she was deceased in this photograph. And that has been swirling in the Facebook news groups. It's been swirling on Twitter. It's been swirling in YouTube land, on people's community posts. And I called Barbara purposely. Now, I hope Barbara doesn't block my phone after this, but I called her.
She might.
If she does, I know where she lives now. I'll come back now. But I called her because I want to go to an expert. And I asked Barbara, would you please take a peek at this photograph? And she kindly said, yes, DutyRon, I'll look at it. Send it to me. So, Barbara, I'm going to put this photograph up, and I want you to just you take it from there. I'm going to put it up, and I'll go full screen on it so everyone has a good view. Can you see this good, Barbara?
Yes, that's perfect right there. Yeah, just come in another little notch there, Ron.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. I think you have to look at the evidence, right? And the evidence, the best evidence, is the little girl's color. Her lips are rosy pink. Her color is good. There's a slight blush in her cheek. And her eyes don't have that bluish tinge. The eyelids that they sometimes get where the skin is so thin that in a deceased person, without blood, you're seeing a very pale, almost blue look. Now, I see that her temples bilaterally they're shaded a tiny bit. And that is, so I think some people have, indented the sides of their skulls here. I know I do. A lot of people have that, and I think that's between that and the shadow of her hair. That's what you're seeing. I don't, I don't call that bruising or anything else. The other thing to notice is her little hands. The way kids sleep, their little hands curl up and then they kind of jump, and it looks like she's just sort of fallen asleep, dozed off on the milk.
I've joined you here, Barbara, not to cut you off, because I wanted to point out these areas on the temple right here that I have my cursor going around. I know it's hard to see, but here on right and left, the right and left temple area, this was some of the areas that people homed in on, and with conversations that I saw, they said this looks like bruising here. Now it's consistent on both sides. And I don't know if this was from a day or an hour at the watering hole, or if this is something that is normal for her. But you, as a professional here, you don't see anything with that, right?
No, you're seeing the shadow of her temples, and you're seeing the shadow of her hair, and the particular turn of the lighting. As you can see right over her forehead there, right over her bangs, there's a dark shadow over her hair. Okay. I couldn't possibly call that an injury looking at this photograph, but her position, her neck, if she were dead, you would see a sag at the angle of her neck there, but she's not. She's propped against the milk container because that's how she conked out.
So the sag would be down here by her. If we're standing behind her, it would be her right cheek here, right?
Yeah, just in from there, just down toward the shoulder.
Right, between the milk, the red sign on the carton, and here at the shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you'd see more of her. I think you'd see her neck sagging more, because if she were truly limp, truly dead,
right.
And I mean, then someone could say, oh, well, perhaps she's got rigor mortis. Perhaps she died in this particular position. And that doesn't seem likely at all. She's laying exactly on those milk containers, the way her shoulder fits over the bottom container there. This, to me, looks just like a little girl who fell asleep in the car.
What about her hands here? This is another point. I was paying attention to the misinformation. But, because I'm not an expert in death investigations, I couldn't chime in. Now, it looks like her right hand here is semi-open. I've got the cursor down by it. I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah.
This is like a semi-curved shape. Is that a normal shape for someone who is not deceased or someone who is deceased?
Sure. Kids, if you watch children, their little hands sort of fall down and fall curled, closed, and then they'll sort of be startled when they wake up a half a bit, and then that looks perfectly normal to me. How old is she? She's 5 years old, right?
Five, Barbara, and her right hand looks to be just like resting, kind of little, the pinky and the index the fingers a little bit outward, but it looks like her middle fingers and everything is kind of a little clenched up there. But this is what you would classify as a normal young, 5-year-old.
Barbara, can I just ask a question here?
Sure.
You gave several indicators of life, and maybe you gave one or two maybe indicators of death, which was the sagging of the neck and the position she's in. If she was dead for say an hour or more, give us some more indicators of death that you would see that you're not seeing here.
Yeah, Bill. Just to be clear, I was saying that the fact that her neck is not sagging at that angle,
right, is a sign of life. But if it was sagging, that would be a sign of death.
Yes.
I'm just asking you to give us more indicators of death. If, say, she was, for argument's sake, she was dead for an hour or two, what other indicators would we see in this picture that we're not seeing?
If she were dead for an hour or less and had not been in a struggle, because as you know, struggling brings on rigor mortis more quickly. It's a chemical reaction in the muscles. So if she had been dead for an hour, I would expect her skin to have that. It's a pale, waxy hue. There's a blue tinge to it sometimes too, depending on how they die. But
is that adaposia? Is that what you're referring to?
no, it's part of livor mortis. The blood would drain out of her face.
So part of lividity, which would maybe show on the right side of her face.
Right, lividity. Yeah, if you would see blood settling there on that right side.
Barbara, I want to ask you quickly, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I really am. This is another thing, and I want to get it out because I know you got to go and you have limited time. Her right finger here where my cursor is, and I know it's hard for you to see it, but I did send it to you to your phone, this picture.
Mm-hmm.
It looks to be there's like dirt or dirty hands. She was just playing at a watering hole where there's probably a lot of dirt and mud. There was some people that were saying her fingernails looked like they were, bluish tinge to it. I don't see that. It's grainy when we zoom in. But do you still have it on your phone where you could take a look?
Yeah. Let me just here. I can zoom it up.
Yeah, it looks at the base of the fingernail on her right hand at the thumb, and underneath the fingernails, it looks like what I would see here. It looks like dirt. I don't see any type of tinge.
Yeah, it looks like ordinary 5-year-old's hands to me. Just a little dirty.
Okay.
I couldn't possibly call that purple.
Okay.
As in bruised, but no, if she had been dead for an hour, we'd see some settling of blood. We'd see that white, waxy, almost bluish tinge to the skin. The eyes could be closed, open, or most commonly, they're just a little bit open. And she'd be completely limp. Rigor mortis usually, it starts setting in immediately, but you wouldn't see much in an hour. So I would expect her to be limp and sagging.
Right. How long would it take for rigor mortis to set in on does it vary from an adult to a child?
Yes, it does. It's dependent on muscle mass and metabolism. So as when you exercise, you get chemical reactions in your muscles, and then they get stiff afterwards from the waste products of those chemical reactions. But your blood washes it away. When a person's dead, no more blood circulation, and therefore that waste product from muscle activity is not washed away, and it sort of locks up those muscle fibers. So gradually we get this onset of rigor mortis. So a child who was running, playing, jumping, and quickly died would have, some little stiffening of the fingers, arms, the jaw in the first 2 hours. But a child just, say, laying in bed and not struggling or anything else, didn't have any fever, no drugs, probably wouldn't have much at all. Maybe just in the fingers, a little bit in the jaw, tiny bit.
Let me ask you quickly, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, and because I really want to go over any possibility. If this child, God forbid, was killed just right then and there, and that photo was taken, this is a video, so this is a TikTok video, I think, but this is a snap capture of a video. But let's just say, for argument's sake, she was just freshly killed or deceased. Would there be any indicators in a photo, like if this happened just moments ago?
I would expect to, if she just suddenly died from, let's say, a drug injection.
Alcohol, blunt trauma, smothering.
No, you'd see some abrasions on the face. Blunt trauma, you'd see something. The biggest indicator to me is her mouth. Her lips are rosy and, show good blood circulation.
Would the mouth be open if she had freshly been killed?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay.
Depends on the position, tucked like that.
Right. And I appreciate you answering these tough questions. And I should have put that disclaimer out there if you suffer from PTSD, but it's a little too late for that now.
Yeah.
So I apologize to my friends. Some people talk about a dry drowning. Do you know anything about that, Barbara? Dry
Sure.
drowning?
Sure. A so-called dry drowning is actually it's more dangerous than straight out drowning. There's a whole syndrome, but a little bit of water gets absorbed into the lungs, and then it's between the blood vessels and the lungs. You get a balance of the sodium ions. It's really complex. But bottom line is, if you were to open the chest of a deceased person who had suffered a so-called dry drowning, you don't see the water, the foam, all that that you would see in a drowning where someone breathes in lots of water and dies in the water. The so-called dry drowning, I think, happens more someone who is taken out of the water and is rescued, and then some short time later, they're awake and they seem okay, and then suddenly they get this perfusion of ions across the blood vessel membranes.
So if someone was to be, let's just say, drowned under the water, let's just say, for argument's sake, because this is another fake book rumor, that this child was drowned at that watering hole and then placed in this vehicle. Would there be clear indicators if there was a drowning with her, with a photo short time afterwards, whether it be moments or 20 minutes later? Or do decedents that die from a drowning have clear indicators?
Well, sure, her lips would be bluish for one thing, but her hair's not wet, or even stringy from being recently wet. Her clothes are dry, so no indication at all that she was drowned. And then, of course, when you drown someone, even a child, you have to hold them down, and that leaves marks.
Right. I greatly appreciate that. Bill, do you have any questions for her? Because I want to release her early because I want her to be able to come back for us.
Well, Barbara, even with, and it's just this is for the benefit of everyone who's listening, asphyxia, that would leave something in the eyes called petechial hemorrhaging, correct? So that could be checked out also, right?
Yeah. Depending on the type of asphyxia, that can happen. Especially if there's a ligature, you have to compress the blood vessels, and then the blood bursts through the membranes and the whites of your eyes onto the lips because of the pressure buildup of blood in the head.
Barbara,
so that can happen,
when you make a reference to a ligature, I'm just there might be some people who are watching that don't even know what that is. Could you just enlighten some of you folks?
Anything used to strangle a person, to cut off air supply or blood circulation. So a belt, a rope, a scarf, a piece of wire. There's all kinds of ligatures. And Ron, I just want to say one more thing about the photograph. It's possible that I'm wrong. It's entirely possible. There's ways to put, lipstick on a child who is dead. There's ways to, make the face look colorful. There's ways to make a person look alive. But the likelihood of anything like that is just so, out in left field. And as you pointed out before, when we start going off on it's good to always keep our minds open. My boss used to say, put your hands over your mouth, take your hands off your ears, put them over your mouth. Just like listen. But we don't want to, chase down rabbit holes like what if. Every likelihood is that this little girl in the car appears to be alive and just sleeping.
Thank you so much for that. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was seeing and I was remembering with my notes certain things I wanted to ask you. And I always do it. Once you leave, I say, I wanted to ask her this. So you checked off all the check boxes that I had here tonight. If you don't mind, just 2 minutes, I want to look at the chat and say hello to everybody and see if there's any questions for Barbara Butcher, retired chief of staff from the New York City Medical Examiner's Office, the largest medical examiner's office, arguably in the United States. Correct me if I'm wrong. but I like to, put it out there. They have a huge, tremendous volume of business in New York City. So the amount of work and the amount of investigative experience Barbara has is just over the top. We talk about Rogersville, Tennessee. We talk about, these small remote locations out in Bakersfield and California City, these cases that we cover. There's nothing, you cannot compare New York City to any of these places because of the sheer volume that they see. So, again, for those of you who are tuning in, Barbara Butcher spent a great deal of her adult life investigating deaths, a legal medical investigator, correct? Am I right on that?
Medical legal investigator, yes.
My dyslexia kicked in.
Yeah.
Sergeant Melinda, retired Sergeant Melinda, comes in with the $100 super chat, and she is saying happy birthday to Lieutenant Pete Pranzo. Garden Girl also says, thanks for clearing up the rumors, DutyRon and Barbara. And don't forget Bill, because he gets a little tizzy. They get into a tizzy.
I'm learning humbleness from Barbara.
Thank you.
She must be Catholic.
It takes a good female to teach men like ourselves to be humble. So.
She's very humble with all her credentials and all her superstardom. She's still humble.
Chasing Truth, thank you for the $10 super chat. Thank you for bringing Barbara on. So there's a lot of accolades coming in for Barbara. Let me just go back to the super stickers and the super chat. JR sends in a $50 super sticker. Thank you, JR, for your support. Lieutenant Pete Pranzo, thank you. NYPD first grade detective Bill Ryan. Great panel tonight. I appreciate that, Lieutenant Pranzo, and happy birthday if it is your birthday, because I think here the next message from Sergeant Melinda comes in with $100. She says, happy birthday, Lieutenant Pete Pranzo. My eyes, my little vision. And thank you, Barbara Butcher, for the expertise. And I love all y'all are here so much. I love y'all here so much. She's from the Deep South. So thank you so much, retired Sergeant Melinda. Thank you for your service to our country as well. Yeah, so there you have it, Barbara. I'm going to look quickly if anybody has any comments or questions for Barbara Butcher or Bill Cannon, retired detective homicide sergeant. Now's the time. I'm going to be looking at it. And listen, let me just say while I'm looking, you guys are such an important part to the education of true crime enthusiasts, because most of the folks, and I say this wholeheartedly, a great percentage of the folks have good intentions and really want to follow these cases, and they want to learn about what we do, what it is we do. And people like Barbara and Bill and myself, we're fascinating to these people. And you know what? They're fascinating to us, because everything that we have to tell them, we can learn something from them as well. So,
DutyRon, I love that when Barbara says, I don't know, or I could be wrong. That is the real sign of a professional, because she's not insecure about who the hell she is.
She's amazing.
Maybe more people should say that.
Yeah. I agree. So a lot of people are just sending in accolades and thank yous. I'm not going to bog you down with that, Barbara. I'm going to look at the private chat because there's a message. Josh says, Barbara's time is almost up. It's 28 minutes. Barbara, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. We're not ending the live stream. Me and Bill are going to continue on because I got a couple of more things I want to go over with you. Barbara, anything additional that you might want to add for folks that are out there with these type of investigations, or any advice you want to give to the folks?
Thank you all for what you do to help move these investigations forward by supporting your local police and medical examiners' offices. Thank you all for all your input on these cases. I learn from all of you. Thanks, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Good night, Barbara.
Wow. What a tremendous asset to the true crime community to have a retired person.
Medical legal investigator.
Yeah, I get tongue twisted on that. But I always want to say medical examiner, and she gets so mad at me. I was not a medical examiner. I was an investigator. So, what an asset for us to have somebody like her come on, because, Bill, I'm telling you, I receive hundreds of emails about this photo. This photograph was the focus of so many people's attention for so long. And the reason it was the focus, Bill, is because of Facebook and all these fake swirling rumors. People that just want to talk and say what they think. And you know, these internet detectives that have no experience in investigating a crime. And this is where it happens. And that is the whole basis of this live stream, is to put it in perspective, is that we as detectives and investigators, we're retired, but when we were active, we needed these folks to help us. We don't want this to turn into something where you're hindering prosecution and bringing a bad guy to justice or bad people to justice. Let me read these super chats quick. Maureen Walsh sends in $10 and says, "Happy birthday, DutyRon. It's not my birthday, but thank you. It's Lieutenant Pete Pranzo's birthday. We appreciate the clicks of the cuffs, not LOL. Love you, Barb and police off the cuff." Thank you so much for that super chat. Let me get back to a little bit further back, because I think I got another one. That was Maureen. There it is. Truth Seeker sends in $5 and thanks for all you guys do for these babies. Bless your hearts. Find summer. Amen to that. Amen to that. We need to find out what happened to her, because we all know, Bill, that this little girl didn't just vanish. Do you want to expand just a tad bit on that?
Well, you know, Ron, going back to that picture, if you could bring up that picture one more time, and I'm just going to, you know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. And one of the things we look at, we see they must have just went shopping, right? They got milk. So we know usually when you go into a supermarket, there's going to be a receipt, which is a good timestamp that has the date and time that you were in that specific store. In addition, most stores have video. So now you can go back to that store, you have the exact date and time, and you can check their video to see who actually came in at that time. And was the little girl in the store, was she alive at that time? Another thing that I can't help but notice is she has a seatbelt on. If someone had killed her, would they have put the seatbelt on a dead person? I don't know. But that's one of the things as an investigator I see right away, you know, and so this picture, besides all, you know, all the fake book stuff, there is some really good information in there. And again, if you pulled up the receipt, you could find out what store they went to and what time, what the date is on the receipt, and then check the video accordingly.
That's a very good point, Bill, because going into Walgreens, as Mom Kansas Wells says, to get medication for her mom, whether it was Summer that went in with the mom or Summer went in, whoever went into Walgreens that day to pick up the prescriptions is going to be on video camera. Every Walgreens, it's a nationally franchised drugstore, has the CCT cameras. They have their cameras. So that's going to be a good one. How she paid. Did she swipe with a card? Did she pay with cash? There's a receipt generated. This is 100% great stuff for our investigators because they match it up to the story that's being told. Okay. But we don't need embellishments and expanding. Like, remember in high school, you would tell a story. Hey, Johnny got caught smoking weed out back in the bleachers. But by the time that was at 8 o'clock in the morning, by the time 3:15 and the bell comes off, it's Johnny had a gun and he brandished it, and he had weed and he had coke. So this is what happens with rumors.
DutyRon, it's like that game, the telephone. Remember you playing the game telephone?
Yeah.
You'd whisper something in someone's ear, and then they whispered in, and by the time it got back to the last person, it wasn't even close to what the initial sentence was said.
But we're talking about somebody's life here. This is not a game. This is life and death. And you're talking about a potential little small victim and some perpetrators. I don't think this is something. This is something that happened with just one person. There's more than one person involved in a kid just disappearing off the face of the earth. Beach Street, thank you so much for the $20 super sticker. Much love and respect. Lucy's World 1013, $5 super chat. Thanks for all you do, DutyRon and panel. Back the blue always. Thank you so much for backing the blue. Dana sends in a $10 super sticker. Thank you, Dana, for your support for the channel. And again, Sergeant Melinda, thank you for your generous support as well. $100 coming in from retired Sergeant Melinda. Thank you. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. But before we wrap it up, I have to do this, folks. We know, and I'm not just talking about us retired investigators. Bill and I know, we spoke about this before we went live. There are so many criminals that purport to be innocent. There hasn't been one debriefing that I've done where the person said to me, hey, I am completely innocent of this. Some of them are innocent, but they're not completely innocent. If they're in my office and they're in the interview room getting interrogated and interviewed, the chances are they have something to do with it. Either they know something or there's something that swirls around why they're there. And what I'm about to show you guys is 3 separate incidents that we all know that has happened in the recent past. And some of these are things that we might not want to see. So if you suffer from PTSD or if you don't like to rehash some old criminal cases, but what I'm going to show you is an example of 3 perpetrators, 3 criminals who initially told us on video that they had nothing to do with the crime. And we come to find out after they were polygraphed or interviewed and or both and interrogated and investigated, it was found that they in fact were responsible. And I'm going to start out with the first one, and this one is just recent and it happened in Las Vegas. Again, like I said, if you're kind of suffering from PTSD and you're sensitive to this stuff, you might want to step out. But let me play this for you guys, and here we go. I am challenged, as everybody knows,
of resisting a police officer with a firearm and 4 charges of assault on a protected person with a deadly weapon. Now, police say that Rhodes fought with officers, grabbing an officer's gun during his arrest back on Tuesday. Now, those are, of course, in addition to that murder charge. Now, in separate documents, these documents first obtained by the I-Team, Rhodes told police he hit the 2-year-old with his fist several times, killing him. Now, police releasing this booking photo today.
I'm just going forward because I want to spare you guys all this nonsense.
5 days, my girlfriend, baby daddy's sister, and they said they was here to pick up Amari and notified me that it was already prearranged. What's really sickening is that people is making assumptions, thinking that I have something to do with it. We ain't never do nothing like that. What's really sickening is that people is making assumptions, thinking that I have something to do with it.
There's the face of an evil devil who murdered a little boy. He went on national television and told everybody he had nothing to do with it, made up a cockamamie story. Okay, so that's case number 1. Bill, you covered that case, I think, with me. I know we spoke about that case, you and I. Just despicable, horrible, heinous crime against a little child.
DutyRon, people that don't have the experience dealing with basically the devil don't understand how people can lie and seem like they're good guys, and that's why one of the things we always do in the investigative world is we run someone's criminal history before we interview them. And some people that aren't in law enforcement might say, oh, what does that mean? They could have turned over a new leaf and changed. And I love to repeat that saying that Dr. Maki Haberfeld from John Jay College said, is that past conduct is a good indicator of future conduct. And that's 100% true. And we see that all the time.
Oh, yeah. And Bill, you've seen it hundreds, perhaps thousands of times with yours. You ran the A squad, so your guys picked up the top cases in Manhattan North homicide. So you've seen it all, and you're a great example for this true crime community of what it takes. And you know what it takes to put together a successful investigation. And there's many moving parts. And to put all those pieces of the puzzle together takes a lot of work. And people get very impatient when that work takes time. You want to talk?
Ron, you hit it on the head. I think sometimes the police are so good that the public gets spoiled and they expect immediate results all the time. And it doesn't always happen that way. Investigation takes time. But as I said, the police across the country are so good at their job that they solve cases very quickly most of the time. This case, I can even read all the chats on the internet and everything. Oh, why haven't they solved this case yet if they're so smart? Well,
a great deal of it, I think, comes into play of the hearts are heavy. People are emotionally involved because it involves a 5-year-old girl. This case that we saw there was a small little boy. When you're talking about children, look at Orrin and Orson West. We're out of our minds. We're losing our minds because there's no answers. Sometimes you tolerate and have more patience when it's an adult, and even then you don't. But I'm saying when we're human beings, so I'm not obviously defending bad action, but I'm saying a lot of the comments and nastiness comes from the motherly and fatherly instincts of humanity. They just want to bring these boys and girls home. Let me play this next one. It's going to make everybody puke. This is only 26 seconds, so let's listen to perpetrator number 2, who has tried to pull the wool over everyone's eyes and didn't succeed. He is now charged with first-degree murder of his wife. So let's play this 26-second video.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you. We miss you. Your girls need you. No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you. They want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back.
There's the look of evil. There's the look of a liar. And listen, all of these cases, we hear and see these crazy pleas for the return of their loved one. And we come to find out he is wholeheartedly responsible for the murder and perhaps dismemberment of his own wife. So it's disgusting. Suzanne Morphew, mother of 2, went missing on Mother's Day 2020. And almost 360 days later, Barry Morphew collared by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the Chaffee County Sheriffs and the FBI. What's your take on that one?
I tell you, it's amazing to see that. I guess that's what a psychopath is, someone that can actually believe, even though they did the crime and they know they did the crime, but they can believe that they're innocent and try to convince other people of that. And they go about their life when they know that their wife is dead and they did it.
And we see this on a regular basis. That's the scary part, is that you have folks every day coming into law enforcement detectives' offices, sitting down in the interview room and in the interrogation room, as you call it, the box, right, Bill?
Right.
So
That's right.
When people are in the box and they are there, they're giving us a song and dance. But it's our job to figure out what's right and wrong. And that's why Kansas and DonWells, if in fact they're telling the truth, the pieces of the puzzle will come together and the investigators will be able to say, okay, they're telling the truth. Everything's adding up. But when things aren't adding up, that's when it leads us into other areas and down. You should start going down other roads and things change quickly. The perpetrator that I showed, perp number 2, with Amari, little baby Amari, he was polygraphed and failed the polygraph and then gave a complete confession. He actually drew a map and told them where he disposed of the body and how he killed the kid after failing a polygraph. So for those of you out there who think the polygraph is useless, that was a tool in that case. And in the next case, we're going to show you perpetrator number 3. This is the 3rd perpetrator out of many. There's hundreds or thousands out there who give the bullcrap story and say that their child or their wife was taken from them and they want them back. And here we're going to listen. This one might make people want to puke. So just get ready for this, folks. This is going to be one that we've all seen hundreds, thousands, millions of times. But I had to bring up these three because these were the top three on my list. This person, too, submitted to a polygraph and confessed to murdering his entire family.
Right now, it's got K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, and see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now, it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
What happened?
You can hear the dogs in the background.
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like I had texted Shanann a few times that day, called her, say but she never got back to me. But she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well, and that's what really concerned a lot of people. Is like if she's not getting back to her, like if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Like she gets busy during the day. But she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And Nicole called me.
This is all after he annihilated his unborn son, his 2 children, and his wife. This is the face of evil. And this is the job that law enforcement has, to figure out this scumbag. And people just like this every day come forward, commit crimes, and it's up to us to decipher and put the handcuffs. And I showed you in my last live stream on Chris Watts, them putting handcuffs on him. And there's no better feeling for an investigator than to collar a scumbag like this.
When she was at the door, and that's when I came home. And then walked in the house, and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here.
What's your wife's name?
Shanann, Shanann.
What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste.
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 How old are you?
The dogs barking in the background are the bloodhounds and the cadaver dogs searching the home. And this guy was able to keep a straight face and give her interview here. So I'm going to let this roll just for another minute.
4, Bella's 4, Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her.
Relationship with the kids.
My kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. And there's last night, like during when they usually eat dinner, it was just like I miss them. I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that, or you're not going to get your dessert, and just like you're not going to get your snack after. I miss that. Like I miss them, cuddle up on their couches. They have like a Minnie Mouse couch and a Sophia couch that they cuddle up on and watch, Bubble Guppies or something. And it was just like, it was tearing me apart last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night, and for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on. Her flight got delayed from Arizona because of like other storms around the nation. So she's supposed to get home like 11. She got home at like 1:48. She got in bed about 2.
What was she going for? Like family trip? Or
It was a Thrive direct sales. It was a local event that was down there between a bunch of leaders in the company.
And that day she was back.
I left work early that morning, like 5:15, 5:30. So like she barely got. If they're not, this has got to stop. Like, that's what's tearing me apart. But I'll leave it at that. But I just want them back. I just want them to come back.
There's the classic, I want them to come back. There's the classic that you get from every sick, evil monster. Okay. So I put this up, and I didn't want to bore you guys and make people want to throw up, but I too wanted to throw up in my mouth, and I'm going to save you guys any more anguish with listening to this evil, sick monster. And, I hope that he rots in jail and doesn't have one good day for the rest of his life for the pain that he has inflicted on not only Shanann's parents, but the world in general. I mean, the world looks at this case and just wants to just attack this man. So I hope he doesn't have one good day in prison. But I wanted to show you these three folks for a good reason. This is every investigator. This is what every investigator has to try to figure out, is whether this person is telling a true story or is giving a tale, is telling a fib. And Bill, talk about how important that interview, these interviews are for an investigator. Talk about what gets used when you get this guy now into. Now he hasn't been interviewed by the investigators yet. This was the news out in front of his house with the dogs in the background searching his home for any traces. Talk about how
Ron,
important these.
Ron, one of the best ways, that a really good investigator, a really good interviewer, interview someone is to get truths, things that they know are true, and then get the person they're interviewing to lie. But don't let them know that you know they're lying, and get several of them. Write them down. You gave a preliminary interview. Then you come back into the box and say, guess what? You're full of shit about this. You lied about that, and you lied about this. What are you doing? Why are you doing? And you actually can confront them with solid things like I talk about: timestamps, video timestamps, cell phone timestamps, going to a store, having a receipt, then following up, finding video. Those are all things that good investigators know to get. Easy Pass records. All of those things are timestamps and come with video. Those are the things, the truths that you confront a piece of shit liar like we just saw with, and that's when his story starts crumbling. And then you also get into the forensic evidence, the physical evidence, the testimonial evidence, all of those things. But good interviewers, good interrogators know how to use the truth to overturn a liar.
Excellent. I couldn't have said it any better, Bill. And I got to tell you, for me, at the end of the day, Chris Watts, just a piece of garbage. But let's quickly go into police off the cuff. I want to talk to you about police off the cuff. I encourage each and every one of you to go over and subscribe. Go over and subscribe to Police. What's happening?
It sounds like we turned into the Twilight Zone here.
I think I got this. I just figured it out. I had too many things open. I want everybody here in the chat. I apologize for the technical difficulties. That was my fault. I had 4 screens open, so they were both playing at the same time. But I want everyone to go over to Police Off the Cuff. I'm going to link his channel down in the description. Bill is, again, he has tremendous guests that come on. He's going to be expanding and talking in detail tomorrow night about the Summer Wells case. So go over and subscribe to Police.
What happened to DutyRon? He left us here. Yeah, tomorrow night at 9, I believe actually DutyRon is going to be my guest tomorrow night. And we're going to continue to talk about the Summer Wells case, about, real things that the investigators will be looking at, where the investigators possibly are, and what they're looking at. And we're going to try to use, solid truths. It's difficult for us to get and put out solid truths because we're not privy to what I always refer to as the case folder. And the case folder is like the Bible of an investigation. Every time a detective, an investigator, an FBI agent, anytime they interview someone, anytime they do something connected with the case, they do what's called a complaint follow-up. And they write down the results of their investigation, of their interviews, of if they collected video, if they collected a receipt, if they invoiced evidence. Everything is documented so that the case reads like a story from page 1 to the final pages. DutyRon is back, so.
Thank you for covering that, Bill. Yeah, it was the extra screen that I had going on, and it just kept flaking out on me, so I shut it off. But yeah, so it's important that every case is handled the proper way, as you just described, But if you're not handling a case properly by being sidetracked, again, the public is not going to completely sidetrack the FBI and TBI. These guys are professionals, guys and gals. They're professionals, and they're going to do their job, just as the New York City Police Department. You know, I always used to say, you know, the greatest detectives in the world. When I would see a case come up and people would talk about it in my neighborhood, or somebody would say, "Hey, DutyRon, are you covering that, you know, stabbing or that shooting?" I said, you know what? The greatest detectives in the world are on it. I guarantee it's going to be closed. And within 12 to 24 hours, 80% of the time, these cases get closed. And if they get dragged out, you know that these guys are going to follow up on every lead. I mean, you were there as a supervisor, so you had a great look in to what the men and women of New York City Police Department and some of the greatest detectives, arguably in the world, working in New York City. But look at the outside agencies. We've collaborated and worked with so many agencies outside of the New York City police area, outside of New York. You know, we've working with detectives from all over the United States. So I know that you probably have done that during the course of your time as well. So,
well, you know, Ron, policing and law enforcement is a brotherhood, and that's why, you know, if you're on the job, you're a New York City detective, a boss, whatever, you can call another jurisdiction and say, "Hey, we're coming in tomorrow. We're looking for so and so. Could you meet us at the airport? Could you pick us up?" They're going to do it because that's the brotherhood of law enforcement, and they're going to help you with the case. They'll be thrilled to help you with your case.
And that's what makes law enforcement great across the United States. It's what makes it great throughout the United States. And you know what? I'm going to say this quickly before my screen flakes out. What time are we going live tomorrow night talking about DonWells?
9 o'clock tomorrow night.
So 9 p.m. Eastern on Police Off the Cuff. They're going to continue the conversation. I think I will be able to, because we're going out. We have an engagement at 7 o'clock, but I think I'll be home by 9. You and Irma Rivera are going to be tackling.
Well, I'm not sure that Irma's going to be able to do it tomorrow night. So I'm going to try to get somebody, but Irma may come on or she may not.
All right. So I'm going to encourage everybody here. We got close to 800 or so folks. Subscribe to Police Off the Cuff. I have it linked down below in the description. And those of you who are following the Summer Wells case, I want to just say thank you to everyone who positively interacts on all these live streams. If you have a comment, leave it down below in the comment section. If you're new, let me know you're new, even in the comments after the live stream is over. Just say new on the channel, so this way I know. And a special thank you to Tier Talk with Anthony Ganji. I see him in the chat. Thank you, Anthony, for being a great part of the Crime Time with DutyRon channel. And Anthony has a great channel too. Go over and check out Tier Talk and all of our great friends and partners from the law enforcement community. Ryan Investigates was here. I saw Joe Murray, our favorite attorney. I have his website linked onto mine. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all one word, DutyRon. And definitely look on DutyRon.com. I have so many great links and resources on DutyRon.com. Ask to join my Discord server. You'll have a great time in the Discord server because we talk about a lot of great stuff in there, and you can just pick my brain apart in Discord. So I want you guys to join our Discord group, support Police Off the Cuff and all the great law enforcement YouTube channels that are out there. Bill, anything final words for the troops?
I just want to say happy birthday to Lieutenant Pete Pranzo, Harlem Raiders, and he's a true superstar of law enforcement. Enjoy your birthday. Enjoy your day.
LT, enjoy your day. Wishing you many more happy and healthy birthdays. What is he, 59 now?
I don't want to say. I know how old he is, but he might not like me to say it. I said it to Joe Pistone. I said, "Hey, Joe, you're 81 years old," and he didn't like it. You know that I outed him. You know.
Some guys don't like it. They're like women. They don't like it. But
that's right.
Lieutenant Pete would say, yeah, no, sure. It's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's probably what he would say, but I'm going to let him give it up.
Thank you, Richella, for being in here. Make sure you treat Pete a little bit extra good. I know you treat him very well all the time. Where is she? I'm trying to highlight her. Where did she go? Yeah, I see her in the chat.
I saw there's Lieutenant Pete on the screen right now.
Yep.
Harlem Raiders.
I was just trying to find Richella. But anyways, thank you to everybody for being in here in the chat. Thank you to my moderators and all the folks who watched the replay. You guys are freaking awesome. The replay viewers are really outstanding. And these are my folks in the UK, in South America, South Africa, all over the globe. So thank you to the replay viewers. And guys, let's continue the conversation. Leave me comments. Let me know what you thought of Barbara Butcher. The last name, we already dogged her enough about that. So I gave her a break tonight. I didn't go into the Butcher thing. Definitely, subscribe, like, and share. Guys, good night from New York. As I always like to end these live streams, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, all victims of crime and their families across the globe. Good night from New York City, from Police Off the Cuff, Bill Cannon, Sergeant, Retired Sergeant, Detective Sergeant from Manhattan North, and Retired DutyRon, retired NYPD detective from the Warrant Squad, Fugitive Enforcement, as we used to call it, FED.
That's right.
All right, guys. Good night from New York City, and thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, dude.